But we see a horribly poorly thought through engagement by me, trying to push all the way out for some reason, deciding it was the right time, and losing a whole crap load of goons in that attempt. Where's my Reaver? There's my Reaver. I think he was about to move out and harass, but instead he has to drop in, defend, and his Dragoons are pushed back down my ramp. I am now left with one Dragoon, and he decides very wisely to push up again as my Reaver goes out to harass. So I'm going to have to absolutely sprint back with that and try and do some damage. Fortunately, we saw a massive Scarab go off in the middle there. Because of course Reavers do tremendous splash damage and Dragoons do not last very long against that sort of thing. Another big Scarab going off, and you can see I'm able to pick off his Dragoons as he retreats. So we've seen some pretty good stuff about the old Reavers there. We have seen a really good example of their splash damage. We've seen a good example of how they can be used to defend when you have made a horrible cock-up and you've let all his Dragoons into your base. Extremely useful things, even so far in this game. So, I once again managed to push him back, and he heads off down my ramp, runs all the way home to his base. This of course allows me to get a little bit more map control, and soon I should be able to knock an expansion up for myself, which is of course getting to the stage of the game where it's pretty well needed, although it's key to note that he has not been able to expand yet either, so I am really not far behind, and I have a pretty good tech path for one base, although he's clearly going for speed zealots, so he'll have a greater unit advantage than me, for a bit at least, because zealots are of course cheaper and faster to build. But I'm making another terribly ill-informed decision, and I am pushing out once again, nobly and bravely across the map, thinking, well, hey, I've got plenty of Dragoons, I've got 2 Reavers in a shuttle, what could possibly go wrong? We see the shuttle there with the Reavers all loaded into it. You can take 2 Reavers per shuttle, and I'm just making sure he's not going to be flanking me at any point. Take out a scouting probe there, which was hidden. He considers moving out, and I think very quickly he knows to move back. I do manage to drop my Reavers and get a couple of very nice Scarabs off on his Zealots and his Dragoons. Zealots, of course, very bad against Reavers, because often they tend to clump up pretty badly and all their health disappears in a flash. Now, let's take a look at the position I'm in. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Dragoons and 2 Reavers. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Dragoons and 5 rather speed zealots. I think that's 5. No, I was right first time, it's 6. So he's going to be able to rush at my goons straight away with his speed zealots, and he's going to be able to start dealing an absolute ton of damage to these fellows, and Dragoons are really, really weak against zealots. So I really should have thought this through a little bit better, but we'll see how the battle goes. Big Scarab goes off in the middle of all the Zealots there. A couple of big Scarabs going off, taking out all the Zealots, but all my Dragoons have died in the process, and I am forced to pull back. Now, what I do next I find pretty inexcusable. I decide I want to try and hold this high ground, but of course, Reavers aren't really much of a mass, they don't really have a very high fire rate, so I have very little with which I can hold this high ground, and he is able to simply push up, get all his Dragoons on this high ground, and take my stuff down, because he has pretty much adequate numbers to deal with 2 Reavers without too much difficulty. So I drop the Reavers down, trying to do the lifting up and dropping down micro to keep them safe for a little bit longer. Managed to get a couple of good Scarabs off to weaken his Dragoons and kill a fair few. So I haven't come out hideously badly at the end of that engagement, but I'd rather I would have pulled back or tried some harass. In fact, that's very important, that's worthy of a pause. What I should have done there is I should have held my Dragoons outside his base to make sure he wasn't pushing out to do any extra pressure, or I could have even taken them all the way home, and got my shuttle into his base and started trying to kill some probes, because trust me, take it from me, with 2 Reavers, probes will die so incredibly fast. It's a beautiful thing to see, because of course the splash damage, if I were to land a Scarab here, all these probes would be dying, and I would be in a fantastic position to take this game right now. And of course, had he moved too many units back to try and defend, I would have been able to pounce on the remaining ones with my Dragoon force. So hindsight is a wonderful thing, and I will be able to do it much better next time. So let's speed this up a little bit. You see me now regrouping my tattered forces at my natural expansion, laying down a Nexus at long last. I'm slightly ahead in the Nexus timing, but that's not too much of a big deal. Producing another Reaver, and now this upgrade. This is a crucial upgrade, especially if you are behind in the game. This right here is a shuttle speed upgrade. It's called Gravitic Drive, I believe. And it gives your shuttle a massive, massive speed boost. So if you are behind in a game and you feel you're going to need to do something drastic to get back into it, then the best thing you can do, or one of the best I should say, is to try and get a big economic advantage by getting a very fast shuttle and a high explosive unit into the back of his probe line and doing masses and masses of damage. So we'll see how that works out for me, but it is of course quite a slow upgrade. We can see it's creeping up even at ×2 speed. So I'm perfectly happy to just chill for now, not rushing forward in any more ill-guided engagements. We can see he's switched over quite heavily to a Dragoon force in order to deal with his Reavers, because Speed Zealots are terrible at dealing with Reavers. They just melt like crazy to a few Scarabs, a few well-aimed Scarabs. So this is a pretty wise decision by him. Only now his robotics facility coming up, so had I been going for any kind of Dark Templar build, he would have been absolutely finished a long, long time ago. But that's another important thing to learn. A tech switch is not necessarily completely viable. Even if you spot a gap, it's usually too late by then to exploit the gap, unless you spot it really, really nice and early. So we see the shuttle heading out across the map, and it is full of just one Reaver, but we can see how much faster it's got than it previously was, and I'm going to be able to land in here in front of all his probes, in the way of their escape route, and one big Scarab goes off. 2 big Scarabs go off, 3 Scarabs go off, and possibly a final one to do some damage. And there we see just how much damage you can do with only a few good Scarabs from a Reaver. And this inspired him to go on a great big counter-attack, thinking, oh dear, my economy is in a bit of trouble and I need to try and kill this guy now. So I am now running home. I've been macroing quite effectively out of my 4 gateways all this time, so I shouldn't have too much difficulty in defending if I take up a nice concave position and funnel his units into mine. Another advantage of Speed Shuttle is it can get your Reaver quite home to defend, but a bit of dodgy micro there, almost getting it picked off, but not to worry, because it does make it home, and I start landing Scarabs right in the middle of all his Dragoons, doing enormous splash damage to all his units, and we can see how much faster they fall than mine once that Reaver gets into the fray. He realises there is now no way back into this game for him, and GG's out of the match.